Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about Naruto. What if Naruto had Yin-Yang release? Part 5. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please do support for more awesome content and also hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. And also support the creator of this fanfic. I have created many playlists, check it out in the channel. So let's start the video. Zisho stood before the Hokage looking grim. He and his team had just made it back under the aid of Konoha's medical corps. After finding his students, the Jounin returned to the merchants and explained what happened. They set up camp in the clearing, where his students killed Hazuki Shimizu, and he used one of Izumi's crows to send word back to the village. Hiruzen Sarutobi immediately dispatched the Medical Corps 2nd Division to retrieve Squad 5 and sent along Might Guy with 2 Chunin to take over the escort mission. They were waiting for Sugawara and a few other people to begin the debriefing. There came a knock on the door, and the Hokage's secretary came in. Sir, Lord, and Lady Hyuga, as well Lord and Lady Uchiha, are here to see you. Very well, you may send them in. Sarutobi told her. Soon the old man and his subordinate were joined by the 2 couples. After exchanging greetings, Lady Uchiha said, "Me and my husband were informed by Anbu that Uchiha Izumi and her team returned today under the aid of medics. What happened and how is she faring?" Sarutobi lit his pipe and explained. Izumi suffered major chakra exhaustion and 2 broken ribs. I have yet to receive a report regarding the battle, but I believe they were engaged by 2 missing ninja of mist. That's correct, sir. Zisho said. He then turned to the clan heads. We are waiting for my only student still conscious, Sugawara of the Shuji clan, before the debriefing since I wasn't present during the battle in which my team was injured. I was currently engaging the other mist shinobi. There came another knock on the door, and Tsunade entered pushing Sugawara in a wheelchair. Jiraiya followed close behind the medic and shut the door after entering. The Toad Sage then went through 3 hand signs discreetly, activating the privacy seals. Zisho had already explained to him at the hospital that secrecy might be in order. No one, except Sugawara, missed Sannin's actions. Tsunade Sarutobi began addressing the medic. What is the state of the genin? Shuji Sugawara here just needs bed rest for a few days. He overstrained his muscles channeling too much chakra into his limbs. Hyuga Heino broke both of his radius and ulna in his arms, as well his left tibia in his leg. He will need 2 weeks to properly recover at least. Tsunade paused to let the information sink in, then continued. According to reports from the 2nd Division, Uchiha Izumi's heart stopped twice on the way back to the village. Both times the medics stopped to get her heart going again. The amount of chakra she used exhausted her to the point of death. She also suffered 2 broken ribs. As of right now she is in a coma. The room grew silent for a few moments after Tsunade got through talking. Sarutobi then looked to Zisho. The man needed no instruction and began his report. Squad 5 had just passed the border into the land of grass when we were engaged by the waterlogged corpse jutsu. To clarify, water was used to make a large group of dead bandits attack us. At least 20 to 30 bodies against me and each individual member of my squad. Roughly 80 to 120 dead combatants. That's excessive. Jiraiya was shocked. He wasn't the only one either. You'll understand why so many when I tell you the names of the enemy ninja. Zisho explained to the old hermit. Hazuki Susumu and her twin brother Hazuki Shimizu, hid in Mist's long reach of death, and the albino killer whale. The murder twins. Sarutobi stated angrily. They killed people for fun if the stories are correct. They are correct, sir. Sugawara stated coldly. Everyone stared into the genin's haunted eyes. This was the first time he had ever really seen death or come so close to dying himself. Zisho continued his report. It was Hazuki Shimizu that attacked first. He assaulted Uchiha Izumi and separated her from the group. I ordered Hyuga Heino and Shuji Sugawara to aid their teammate while I led Hazuki Susumu off to fight away from the client. You fought the rogue Kunoichi alone? Fugaku asked for clarification. At Zito's naughty questioned. Then how was your shoulder injured so badly? From what I have heard, your defense technique is one of the best in the village. Susumu proved to be a more formidable foe than I at first believed. Zisho said while scratching the right side of his head. This was a signal all Jounin senseis used when they had more to say, but couldn't because of the presence of 1 or more genin. Fugaku took the hint and stopped his line of questioning. Zisho continued. I was attempting to end the battle as quickly as possible to aid my students. I was forced to use a secret technique that I invented to end the fight. You were forced to use that, the Hokage questioned, astonished. The sword illusion dance was a technique Zisho used extremely sparingly. The last thing he wanted was for his enemies to hear about it. They could only affect someone that didn't know it existed, otherwise the enemy would understand what was happening and be cautious of Jinjutsu. Once again Zisho rubbed the right side of his head. After defeating Susumu, I made my way to the site of the second battle, only to find it was already over. Jiraiya looked down at Genin in the wheelchair, surprised. You, Heino, and Izumi defeated Hazuki Shimizu all by yourself? Yes sir, though it was close. Sugawara said hauntingly. After Shimizu kicked Izumi off into the woods, she landed in a clearing just off the road. When Heino and I arrived, we saw that bastard laughing and dancing while Izumi was struggling to remove the water he placed on her face. Shimizu wanted to suffocate her to death for amusement. The young man's hands began to grip the air rests of the wheelchair so hard, his knuckles turned white. Heino ran to help Izumi, and I tried engaging Shimizu. I managed to catch him by surprise and decapitated him with a clean cut. He managed to regrow his head by using water release in some kind of regeneration technique. Saratobi extinguished his smoke pipe while giving the genin an understanding look. I believe at one time or another, every shinobi in this room has faced a member of the Hazuki clan. We all know the turmoil and stress that facing a seemingly invincible opponent can cause. Hiashi walked forward and placed a comforting hand on Sugawara's shoulder. During the war, I faced two enemy Hazuki single-handedly. I know firsthand how little the Juken works on them. If memory serves me correctly, Heino explained you are a Kenjutsu and water release user. That means Uchiha Izumi delivered the killing blow. Fugaku addressed Hiashi. I don't see how. Izumi is one of the best Taijutsu users of her generation, but her reserves are not the best for elemental techniques. I do not believe she has been educated in any fire release jutsu. At least not any that could have been of use against a Hazuki shinobi. She does have a fire technique sir. The genin explained. Her brother Naruto created a wakizashi that has at least one fire technique generated by Fuinjutsu. Actually, he used Fuinjutsu to create the whole sword. Fuinjutsu forging was the term Izumi used when she explained it to us. Both Fugaku and Mikoto looked shocked at this. Jiraiya spoke up to keep the young man on track with his report and to keep from revealing more information regarding the Uzumaki heir's skills. Naruto's Fuinjutsu capability is well documented. Please continue Sugawara. The boy's yellow eyes stared off into nothing as he continued. Shimizu kept trying to reapply his suffocating technique to Izumi after Heino managed to remove it. All we could do was dodge his attacks. He mainly tried an uncoordinated form of taijutsu that was somewhat easy to avoid. Hit and run tactics were all we used most of the fight. In frustration, he switched up to ninjutsu. He tried surprising Heino with some kind of water bullet attack. After that failed, he created a ball of water he then threw at me and Heino, since we had grouped together in order to make a plan. We dodged the attack easily, but it hit the trees behind us and bounced back. I was unable to avoid the ball a second time and became trapped inside. Heino moved in to save me, but his Juken had no effect on the water technique. Shimizu stood there laughing at my struggles. When from nowhere came Izumi's fire jutsu. It looked like a giant disc made of fire that exploded on impact. After the direct hit, Izumi rushed to help Heino in freeing me. Shimizu reformed his body and attacked. He gathered his water bullet technique in his mouth and applied a dangerous amount of chakra, blowing off his own jaw and unleashing water shrapnel. Sugawara explained how Izumi was blown back and Heino was incapacitated by the clap attack. He looked to his sensei and asked, "Do you remember Izumi's summoning technique?" Everyone gave the sensei of Squad 5 curious looks. Naruto managed to chakra tame several crows and create a summoning contract for them. Izumi signed the contract just before leaving on the mission. The birds themselves have battle summoning potential. How is that possible? Mikoto asked. Tsunade explained. More than likely, Naruto's Uzumaki chakra came into play during the taming process. I'm guessing birds came with the natural ability to use wind chakra. Zisho nodded yes and said. Also, their feathers, talons, and beaks are metallic like blades. Saratobi decided to get the conversation back to the fight and asked Sugawara to continue. The young boy took a moment to gather his thoughts and remember where he left off. With me trapped and Heino incapacitated, Shimizu tried once again to smother Izumi. She was able to trick him by substituting herself with a small flock of tamed crows. The flock began attacking the enemy, and Izumi freed me from the water using her wakizashi. She then commanded the crows to fly around the enemy and gather wind chakra. Then she once again used her fire. Fugaku arched an eyebrow. A wind and fire collaboration technique. Was this the killing blow? Sugawara shook his head no. It took another shot from the collaboration technique to finish Shimizu. I had to flood my body with chakra and have help from more of the crow summons to hold the enemy off, while Izumi gathered what remained of her chakra for one final fire. Heino used an eyesight paralysis genjutsu to immobilize the enemy, and Izumi hit him again with her combo. That finished the fight. Sensei showed up, and all of you know the rest. Tsunade said thoughtfully. That explains the near death of Izumi from chakra exhaustion. Dual use of a summoning technique and a fire would be taxing on just about anyone. Saratobi looked at Zisho, wondering what else he had to say. Tsunade, did you bring a nurse with you? At his old student's nod, the old man commanded. Have her escort Sugawara back to the hospital. There are a few more things to discuss. As Tsunade began to wheel the young genin out, Sugawara stopped her. Hold on, I just remembered something. The legendary medic turned the boy around so he could once again address the group. When I was trapped in the water, I could still hear. After Izumi hit Shimizu with the fire and he reformed, he screamed something like, "You aren't supposed to have fire." My sister said the mummy told her you're too weak for fire. It wasn't those exact words, but it was something along those lines. Not sure who this mummy is though. Shimizu was mentally challenged, so it could have been some kind of imagined person maybe. Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and Tsunade shared a knowing look. The Hokage spoke up to comfort the genin. I'm sure that's all it was. There's no need to dwell on the angry rants of a madman. Go get some rest. Tsunade took the young man out the door and handed him over to a waiting nurse. She returned and shut the door, and Jiraiya reactivated the privacy seals. Turning to Zisho he asked. Alright, what more do you have to say, now that young ears are no longer present? Looking around the room at everyone, the Jounin sensei explained. When I fought Hazuki Susumu, it became apparent she had been briefed on my fighting style and weaknesses. If not for a secret technique I possess that only Lord Hokage and Haddock Kakashi know about, I and my team would be dead. By what the boy overheard from Hazuki Shimizu, it is apparent this wasn't a random attack. Fugaku stated. Do you know how the target was? Zisho looked towards the Uchiha clan head. I'm positive it wasn't my clients, but I have only assumptions and no real proof regarding the potential target. No one said it out loud, but they were all thinking the same thing. Of the Leaf Shinobi present, the one most likely targeted was Jinchuriki's sister. Saratobi's fists were clenched tight together in front of his face. He looked to the clan leaders. Can you please excuse us? I have things to discuss with my former students and Zisho in private. Hitomi smiled at the old man. That's fine, sir. I was going to head over to the hospital and check on Hana and Izumi anyway. I'll go with you, Hitomi. Mikoto said. I also want to check on Izumi. Both matriarchs left together. Hiashi bowed respectfully then followed his wife out. Fugaku stayed and addressed the Hokage. Sir, if the discussion remains with Uchiha Izumi then I believe that an Uchiha should be present. Zisho was a little surprised by this. Not many people would question the orders of the Hokage. He turned to his leader to see how Saratobi would respond. The discussion we need to have is of a sensitive Anbu nature, Lord Fugaku. It's need to know only. If I have any information pertaining to Izumi, I will inform you immediately. With the Hokage's explanation, Fugaku bowed and left. The moment the Uchiha clan head was out the door, Jiraiya reactivated the privacy seals. Zisho. Saratobi began. Please sit down, we have much to discuss about the village and Uchiha clan, as well as Izumi's importance to both. Very well, Lord Hokage. Perhaps one of you can get around to why Lord Danzo wants my student dead. Zisho stated coldly. Hospital. Hitomi walked down the hallway headed for the Izumi room. The girl had been placed in recovery since there wasn't much more medical ninjutsu could do to help. Next to her walked Mikoto, as elegant and silent as ever. Her friend hadn't changed much over the years, but there was a tension between them that kept both mothers silent. Walking into the hospital room, both women saw little Naruto standing watch over his sister. Both Hitomi and Mikoto looked around confused, as they could have sworn they heard the Hokage's voice. The little Redeed noticed he wasn't alone, and the voice became silent. "Hello Lady Hitomi, are you here to see Izumi?" Naruto asked silently. The Hyuga matriarch didn't miss the fact that Naruto hadn't acknowledged Mikoto. Was he angry with her for some reason? "Yes, I'm also here to retrieve Heino and have him moved to the Hyuga clan hospital." "Has there been any change with your sister?" Hitomi asked kindly. Naruto shook his head no and just stared back blankly at his sleeping sister. A heart monitor was beeping steadily in the corner, and the slight rise and fall of her chest was the only indication she was still alive. Mikoto walked to the foot of the girl's bed and read her medical chart. Hitomi didn't miss Naruto and gave her old teammate a cold look. Luckily, the Uchiha matriarch was preoccupied with reading, so she didn't notice. Hitomi looked between the young boy and woman curiously. "I'm going to go find a nurse. Would you join me, Mikoto? It might be easier to get one's attention if we're together." The black-haired woman looked at her old friend confused, but walked out with her anyway. When both women left, the faint sound of the Hokage's voice could be heard coming from Naruto. With each word spoken, the Uzumaki's anger grew, even if he gave no outward sign. In the hallway, Hitomi asked Mikoto, "Did something happen between you and Naruto? Maybe something with the Uchiha clan in general?" Mikoto was confused by the question. "No, nothing at all. Why do you ask?" "Naruto and Hinata are good friends, and over the years I've learned to read him well," Hitomi explained. "When you approached Izumi's bed, he became a little tense." Mikoto was confused by this. "The only times I've even met Naruto were just in passing on the street. I've tried encouraging Sasuke to be his friend, but the only person my youngest wants to play with is my oldest. Itachi has an okay relationship with Naruto though, mainly because he fancies Izumi. I actually plan on having Izumi move to a special medical room in my house to recover, so Naruto can just stay with us for the time being." Hitomi didn't say anything, but thought it would be a bad idea. She didn't know why Naruto would be angry with Mikoto and the Uchiha clan, but it was obvious by his facial expression that he was. Nevertheless, there wasn't much the Hyuga matriarch could do to interfere with the Uchiha clan's decisions. As the women were talking, an older doctor came up to them. "Hello, I was hoping to speak with Lady Mikoto. An Uchiha medical ninja, Kanda, is here to retrieve Uchiha Izumi." "Yes, doctor, is that a problem?" Mikoto asked politely. "Well no, I suppose not, ma'am. It's just this was the first I'm hearing about it," the doctor explained. "It will take a little while to get the girl ready for transport. Is there a reason why you are transferring Izumi to your hospital?" "Oh, no real reason, doctor," Mikoto assured the man. "We just want her close to home. Her little brother doesn't want to leave her side." The doctor got a confused look on his face and walked up to Izumi's room. Peeking inside, he saw the little Redeed still standing over his sister. He quietly closed the door and walked back to the two waiting matriarchs. "I don't believe anyone even saw him come in," he explained with surprise. "That boy has some amazing stealth skills." The old man walked off to see about getting the young Uchiha's transfer papers. Hitomi and Izumi returned to the room to check on the Uzumaki. "Naruto, I'm going to go and check on Heino. Do you need anything before I go?" Hitomi asked politely. The little boy shook his head no, but didn't say anything. The Hyuga hugged him and kissed the top of his head, but it didn't get the red blush reaction she was hoping for. The little guy was really out of it. Hitomi said goodbye to Mikoto and left. The black-haired woman sat down in a chair by the corner to wait for the doctor. She kindly spoke to the Redeed. "Naruto, standing there worrying about her won't make your sister better any faster. Izumi wouldn't want you doing this to yourself." The young boy said nothing and gave no acknowledgement that he even heard the woman speak. Mikoto sat quietly trying to figure out a way to get through to Naruto. The Uchiha matriarch wished she had a closer relationship with him like Hitomi, which was one of the reasons she was hoping Sasuke would become his friend, but Kushina's son was as much a mystery today as he was when he first came to the Uchiha compound. Not much longer, the doctor returned with Kanda, who was accompanied by Itachi. Her son looked at Izumi sadly, but said nothing. Mikoto noticed the old doctor was angry about something. When he spoke, the woman guessed what had angered him. "Naruto, this is medical ninja Uchiha Kanda. If you remember, this was the man that performed the bone marrow transplant that saved Uchiha Sasuke's life. I believe you were the one who donated marrow for Sasuke." Kanda looked annoyed, but made no comment to the doctor. He looked at Mikoto. "All the paperwork is done by Lady, we can take Izumi whenever you're ready to go." "Take my sister?" Naruto asked quietly. Itachi stepped forward quickly to assure Naruto. Yes, we have a recovery room at our house she will be more comfortable in. You can stay with us as well until Izumi recovers. Naruto stared blankly into Itachi's eyes. His expression was unreadable, but the slight oppressive feel of his chakra wasn't. Izumi is fine right here. He then turned back to his sister's bed. The room grew quiet at the young boy's subtle warning. The old doctor walked forward quickly to try and placate the young man's anger. Sorry Naruto, but you see the hospital tries to keep as many rooms available as we can. Your sister is out of danger and just needs rest. The Uchiha clan is more than capable of taking care of her at this time, so we released her to their care. The Uzumaki turned again to look at the room's occupants. Only this time his eyes weren't their lovely chocolate brown. The iris had changed to resemble an onyx black crystal with a thin ring of lavender surrounding it. Thin bloodshot red veins ran from the iris and disappeared at the edges. It became apparent to everyone present that they were looking at an unknown taijutsu. Naruto said more forcibly. Then I'll see if the Hyuga clan will take her. Mikoto came out of her shock when she realized the fool Kanda was about to attack the Redeed. She shot the man a warning look and stood up. She walked forward and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder while giving him her best motherly smile. Naruto, Izumi are just as much as yours. I know you're worried because she got hurt, but we would never do anything to hurt her. The Uzumaki looked up into Mikoto's smiling face. He then looked to Itachi, someone he trusted and liked. Izumi always told him he could count on the older boy whenever there was a problem. Naruto calmed down and backed away from Izumi. Kanda went outside and returned with a stretcher. He and Itachi placed Izumi on top and walked out of the room. Mikoto and Naruto walked close behind them. The Hokage's office. Zisho sat in front of Saratobi's desk going over everything he had just been told. The Uchiha are planning a revolt. Itachi and Izumi are trying to stop it. Naruto, the little kid Izumi introduced like nothing more than a cute younger sibling, killed their older brother Baisho, a ninja I wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes against. The little guy can teleport and use candy bases that are believed to be derived from Fuinjutsu. To top all that off, you all believe Danzo killed Uchiha Shisui and tried to kill Izumi because he wants Itachi to eliminate the Uchiha clan, and they interfered with this plan by giving the chosen assassin hope. That about sums it up. Jiraiya said. Though on the Naruto killing Baisho front, we believe the idiot Uchiha completely underestimated his little brother and burned through his chakra in hopes of a quick victory. Doubtful if Naruto could have taken him had Baisho known exactly what he was up against. Kind of like you killing Hazuki Susumu with your own secret technique. What about Danzo? Can nothing be done about him? Zisho asked while scratching his chin. Tsunade sighed sadly. It's unfortunate, but no. We don't have enough proof to act against him. As you understand, knowing and proving are two separate things. Even with Sugawara's statement, even if Heino and Izumi can confirm it, Hazuki Shimizu had documented mental problems. Him screaming out about a mummy isn't good enough, especially to go after a council member. Zisho looked at Jiraiya and asked. If Naruto can teleport, why didn't he help Izumi? The timing of the attack was around when Naruto would have been in class. I suspect that the kid was checking on his sister at night, thinking if there were any problems they would happen when everyone was asleep. We all know that's a classic rookie mistake. Another thing is Naruto probably put too much faith in the sensory abilities of his markers. The fourth once told me the sensory ability of his tags worked better when he was closer to them. As they get further away, the sensory ability slowly becomes fainter. You will always feel the tag, but not exactly what's around it. That was why he created his iconic 3-bladed kunai knives. If the only tag you're carrying is on that knife and you throw it, the fourth would feel the tag and you become distant. That was how he knew there was a problem and you needed help. Zisho shook his head angrily. If Naruto were a shinobi, then this whole mess with my team could have been avoided. If he was apprenticed to you, Master Jiraiya, then you could have explained the issue with the sensory abilities of the tags. Why is he still just an academy student? Jiraiya and Tsunade both looked to their former sensei waiting for his answer. Saratobi took a long pull from his pipe and placed it down on his desk. He gave all three of his subordinates pointed looks. I have served as Hokage through half the First Great Ninja War and the entirety of the Second and Third Great Ninja Wars. Can the three of you comprehend just how many young children, most just barely 6 or 7, that I made genin? Do you know how many small caskets I've been forced to bury? Not just children of our own village, but of others. Forgive me if I don't want to bury any more. I fought like hell to keep Itachi in the academy. The Uchiha wanted Izumi to graduate at the age of 10. I lost a fight for Itachi against overwhelming support from the council in making him a genin, but I won the fight for Izumi. If I had my way, they would both still be in school enjoying their childhood. I made sure I was the Uzumaki clan regent for one reason only, to stop Naruto from becoming a shinobi too early. Jiraiya got a hard look on his face. That's not fair, Sarutobi. You may have promoted those children to shinobi status, but we're the ones that lead them onto the field of battle. We buried a share of small caskets too, though I'll admit probably not anywhere near the number you have. Tsunade placed a hand on Jiraiya's shoulder to comfort him. She gave her sense a sympathetic look and said, "We were some of those children you made shinobi, Sarutobi-sensei. So was my own little brother Nawaki, and never once did I blame you for his death. Zisho here was made genin when he was 8, the same age as my brother, and the same age as Naruto is now. The sad truth is, Uzumaki Naruto stopped being a child the day he fought and killed his own brother to protect the land of fire and its people. You don't have to make him a shinobi, Lord Hokage," Zisho said placatingly. The truth was he had often thought about his lost childhood and wondered what it would have been like. However, he can still help in this matter. At least give him an apprenticeship with Master Jiraiya. He is the last Uzumaki, and Jiraiya is undisputedly the most skilled user of Fuinjutsu we have. With him being in the village more, no one would think it unusual. Both Sannin seemed to agree with the Jounin. Sarutobi gave it some thought before saying, "Fine, I suppose that would be best. Naruto will still go to the Ninja Academy Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. He will study under Jiraiya on Tuesdays and Thursdays. This will allow us access to him without tipping off the Uchiha. Are we in agreement?" Everyone confirmed that they were, and Hiruzen started drawing up the paperwork. Jiraiya decided to head over to the Uchiha compound to have a word with Naruto. Uchiha head family house. Fugaku walked down the hallway leading to the recovery room. He just had dinner with his wife and 2 sons, a rare occurrence these days, and had been informed by Mikoto of an unusual ability Uzumaki Naruto had demonstrated. Itachi had distracted Sasuke to keep the conversation private. The problem was this eye could be an evolution or mutation of the Sharingan, or it could be more along the lines of the Byakugan, since the lavender-colored ring suggested so. It could even be the coveted combined perfect form of both Taijutsu into one perfect new eye that both clans wanted. Fugaku didn't think that was the case though. Knocking politely on the door, the Uchiha clan head entered the room. Looking around he saw Naruto sitting by his sister's bed, an empty plate next to him, and Kanda sitting in the corner reading a book. He didn't comment on the orange cover since Naruto was too distracted to notice. "Is everything going well, doctor?" Fugaku asked Kanda. The medic ninja quickly put the book away and stood up. "Yes sir, the girl is resting peacefully." Looking at Naruto and noticing he wasn't paying them any mind, the medic mouthed, "There haven't been any more signs of the Taijutsu." Fugaku nodded his head silently. "Why don't you go and get something to eat? I'll stay with our patient." "Yes sir," the Uchiha medic said as he hurried out. Fugaku grabbed the now empty chair and sat by Naruto. He studied the redeed closely. Despite their troubled history, he never really wished the boy harm or ill will. When he agreed to the heart transplant idea to save Sasuke, Fugaku knew he was wrong. In that moment in time his son was dying, and he would have done anything to save him. Under no circumstances did it make his choice right, even though both boys survived, but he would live with his choice until the end. That horrible wrong choice, and so many others. It was an unavoidable consequence of being a ninja and clan leader. "How are you holding up, Naruto?" he asked, trying to break the silence. The boy turned to look at Fugaku. "Is there something I can help you with, sir?" The Uchiha clan head noticed a boy's usual shy nature was not present at the moment. Normally, he avoided interacting with people out of fear of being judged or hated, which was what made him shy in the first place. Now it appeared he didn't care, he was itching for a fight, if only to forget his fear of almost losing his sister, and would attack the first person that gave him reason. "I'm only concerned for you and Izumi. It was close, she almost didn't make it back home," Fugaku said. He was trying to get Naruto angrier to see if his Taijutsu would activate. However, sitting in here and watching her sleep won't make her wake any quicker. Naruto gave no reaction to Fugaku's words. He just turned back to his sister and said, If I wanted my Uzumaki mystic Fuinjutsu seal could possibly help, but Lady Tsunade said it would be best if you woke up on her own. I'm just keeping watch so her heart doesn't go missing like mine did. All these Uchiha doctors and their sticky fingers. Fugaku was at a loss for words. He didn't believe Naruto knew the truth about what happened years ago. Had Izumi told him or someone else? Naruto, I'm sorry, Fugaku began, only to be cut off by the young boy's angry glare. One that showed the dojutsu his wife described to him. He could easily see why she thought the Byakugan played a role in its development. The Uchiha sat there trying to find the words to say to the angry young boy. When a knock came from the door. Naruto's eyes turned back to normal as Kanda returned. Sir, Master Jiraiya would like a word. He's waiting in the dining room. Fugaku sat for a moment thinking what to do. He didn't really want to leave Naruto angry, but he couldn't see how to possibly calm him down. Why don't you join me, doctor? Kanda looked confused at his leader, rubbing his hand through his dark hair. He didn't argue though, as he left with Fugaku. In the hall the clan leader spoke. Naruto knows about the heart swap. He may also know who performed it. I don't know what those eyes can do, but I don't want you alone with him until we have more information. His skill with Fuinjutsu is also disconcerting, as well the fact Lord Hokage, the Hyuga, and the Sannin weren't surprised by it. They know more about him than we do, and that worries me. Walking into the dining room, Fugaku saw the Toad Sage talking and laughing with Makoto. He knew his wife secretly loved those orange books. She just didn't approve of them being read in public. Sasuke and Itachi were sitting on either side of their mother. Kanda looked around the room and spoke to Fugaku. I need to head over to the Uchiha clan hospital and take care of some paperwork. If there is any change with Uchiha Izumi, contact me immediately. The man then left immediately. Fugaku sat down between his wife and youngest son, who had scooted over when he saw him enter. Master Jiraiya, what can we do for you? I'm sorry to bother you and your family so late, but I figured this couldn't wait any longer. Jiraiya began. Me and Lord Hokage have been talking about this for a while. We wanted to sit down with Izumi and all of you to discuss this, but with the girl being unconscious for the next week or two, we've decided to move forward. With me being in the village more regularly now, I've decided to take Naruto on as my apprentice. Silence followed Sannin's statement. Fugaku was trying to figure out the Hokage's angle. I figured you would take Namikaze Sakura as an apprentice. What will happen with Uchiha Oho? No offense to Oho, but I have more experience teaching Fuinjutsu to others. The hermit explained. I've also been tutored by Mito Uzumaki herself and can pass on direct Uzumaki clan knowledge in my teachings to Naruto. Fugaku was trying to think of a rebuttal. He wanted to establish a better relationship with Naruto, and this was a good time to try. Izumi's injuries were unfortunate, but it did get both siblings to move in, which both he and Makoto had wanted since Baisho's death. He was surprised when Itachi spoke. There is a complication, Master Jiraiya. Naruto-kun has developed a never-before-seen dojutsu. We don't know what its capabilities are yet, but there is definitely an element of Byakugan to it. Fugaku and Makoto looked at their oldest son in surprise. Jiraiya didn't miss the angry look that crossed Sasuke's face. He was jealous that Naruto had awoken a dojutsu when he hadn't yet. The white-haired man sat deep in thought. Finally, he looked at Itachi and asked, "Are you sure about the Byakugan aspect?" "Yes, sir." The young protege answered. "I was able to talk with Naruto alone only a few hours ago, and he described the ability to see the chakra network and chakra points. Apparently, he awoke the dojutsu several months ago, but never really did anything with it. He tries to keep it repressed more than anything, but it's become harder lately." Everyone was confused by this. It was Sasuke who asked. Why would he want to repress dojutsu? Itachi smirked. He said it was an embarrassing inconvenience. I believe the eye may have been activated when he was looking at one of his female friends. Jiraiya chuckled. Oh yeah, that would definitely clash with the Redeed's shy nature. In truth, the pervert was wishing he had that problem when he was 8. Well, the Sannin began. Since there is a Byakugan aspect, I think it best if you and I, Fugaku, sat down with Lord Hokage and Hiashi tomorrow to discuss a revised training plan. Naruto's standing with the Hyuga clan may mean they would wish to personally train him to use his new eyes. That would be the best, Master Jiraiya. The clan head said, sensing the conversation was over. Itachi, can you see our guest? Of course, father. Itachi said, standing up. Jiraiya stood and bowed to the Uchiha. He left with the young Anbu. In the street, the hermit turned to Itachi and asked, "What are your real thoughts about Naruto's Jujutsu?" Itachi looked around cautiously before explaining. "According to my mother, Lady Kushina did have a Hyuga great-grandmother. She was apparently of the branch family and was wed to an Uzumaki to settle a dispute. Not only that, but her husband removed the caged bird seal." "Yeah, I remember the story. It was a long time ago, and it explains the Byakugan aspect," Jiraiya said. Itachi looked to the old Fuinjutsu master. "Do you remember what I told you about the Manjukyu Sharingan and how it was achieved?" Jiraiya nodded, and Itachi continued. Baisho was Naruto's older brother. Despite the fact he was a sorry asshole, Naruto still loved him. The Uzumaki murdered someone he had a deep emotional bond with. Do you understand what I'm saying? My father believes the eye is some kind of hybrid cross between Sharingan and Byakugan, achieved by Uzumaki blood and chakra. I think he's only half right." Jiraiya walked in silence until he came to the main entrance of the Uchiha clan compound. He said goodbye to the young protege and left still deep in thought. If Itachi's hypothesis was correct, then Naruto had unlocked a hybrid cross between Manjukyu Sharingan and Byakugan. Just what were those eyes capable of? What was Naruto himself capable of? How far would the young Redeed go to protect his sister from ever being harmed again? Mikoto stood at her kitchen stove making tea. Her husband had left only minutes ago to see Lord Hokage, and Sasuke was in the backyard training. Her youngest son had woken up earlier than usual, and the black-haired woman suspected it was because of frustration. Sasuke was angry because Naruto had gained a Jujutsu and he hadn't. Mikoto finished making the tea and placed a pot on a tray with cups, honey, and milk. She placed the tray on her dining room table and sat down across from her old teammate Lady Hitomi Hyuga. The woman had dropped by as Fugaku was leaving and had brought her 2 daughters. She claimed both girls wished to see Izumi and Naruto, so Mikoto had invited them in. It has been a while since we sat down for tea together. The Uchiha matriarch tried to start a conversation. I suppose it has, was Hitomi's cold reply. Mikoto was at a loss. Yesterday at the hospital everything seemed fine, but now Hitomi was upset about something. The Uchiha reasoned with herself that they had both been preoccupied with retrieving their clan members yesterday, so this issue could have been placed in the back of the Hyuga matriarch's mind. Deciding to fish around for more insight, Mikoto asked, "How is Hyuga Heino doing? Did you manage to get him home all right?" "Oh yes." Hitomi began while making herself a cup of tea. The biggest issue was the boy's mother. She is a lovely civilian woman that married into the clan. However, she lost her husband when Heino was 7. So naturally, when she heard her only son was hospitalized, the woman became hysterical. The Uchiha gave a sad smile. I suspected it would be hard for any mother to hear Hitomi. The blue-haired woman gave a nod of agreement saying, "Yes, it would, but we understand more than most that dying early is an unfortunate hazard of our chosen profession. A hazard that is more likely to befall clan heirs before they even become genin. We should be able to handle it more rationally." Mikoto was about to take a sip of her own tea, but paused halfway to her lips. She looked across the table at Hitomi and realized what had upset her. She took her sip and placed the cup back down on its saucer. "You know about the heart swap that was done to save Sasuke?" Hitomi's eyes took on an icy glare. "The Byakugan can see more than just the chakra network, a fact you should know well. If not for the fact I was pregnant at the time, I would have beaten you senseless. After I had Hanabi, someone tried to poison me, and my attention turned to uncovering the coward, mainly out of fear he or she would target my daughters. This is long overdue, but I'm asking you now. What the hell were you thinking?" Mikoto took a moment to gather her thoughts and explained. "The day it happened, I never once left Sasuke's side. Not until the actual moment of surgery because I would have been in the way. I was sitting by his bed when the doctor told me they had a heart available, and I never questioned it. I was worried about my son and never thought about it. I held Sasuke's hand until we made it to the operating room, where I was forced to let go. I went to get tea, just to have something to distract me. By the time I returned the surgery was over and Sasuke had been moved back to recovery. I was so relieved to see him breathing easier, I never questioned anything. I just held my baby's hand and cried. It wasn't until Anbu stormed in to retrieve Naruto under the Hokage's orders that Fugaku finally told me the truth." Hitomi sat in silence thinking of ways to kill Fugaku. Her glare softened a little as she asked. If you had known what they were planning, would you have let them do it? Would you have allowed them to steal Kushina's son's heart? Makoto stared blankly into her cooling teacup. I don't know. I'm ashamed to admit that I don't know. When Fugaku told me everything, I slapped him so hard his head went through the hospital wall, quite sure I fractured his jaw. He literally pulled his head out of the hole and walked away without another word. I understand why he did it, but I don't think I would have made the same decision had I been given a choice. However, I can't honestly say that I wouldn't have either. Hitomi shook her head in disgust. It had been a horrible situation all around, but it should have never involved Naruto. Looking at her old teammate, she asked. What are the Uchiha's plans regarding Naruto now? What with this new Dojutsu and everything else? Makoto shrugged her shoulders. It's too early to tell. I think Fugaku wanted to keep it a secret for a while, but Itachi told Jiraiya. My husband wasn't pleased with that. I'm not sure what Fugaku's motives are regarding Naruto and Izumi. He does want a closer relationship with them, but I don't know why exactly. I think he was going to use the Dojutsu training to try and build one. The Uchiha matriarch turned her head up to the ceiling thinking. Honestly, it might be guilt. Guilt? Hitomi growled. You think he feels guilty for what he did to Naruto? Even if that were true, the only thing he deserves to feel is a kunai through his neck. Makoto gave Hitomi a defiant glare. My husband is not made of stone and ice. He does care for others. He made a horrible decision in a moment of weakness. You have also made horrible decisions in times of crisis. We all have. Hitomi felt her blood boil. There is a difference between the battlefield and our homes. This wasn't some split decision on a mission that cost the lives of comrades to complete the task. This was the sanctity of his own home in the middle of a hospital. He had one dying child and one healthy child. He chose to potentially kill an innocent child to save his own, mainly because there was no one around to protect his potential murder victim. Do not compare that act with any one of my missions or yours. Don't you give him an excuse where there isn't one, Makoto. You're better than that. Both women fell silent after that as they both tried calming down. The mothers heard footsteps coming from the hallway and looked up as Hinata entered. The young girl froze as she felt the tension in the air. Did you need something sweet? Hitomi asked. I was just going to get something to drink for Naruto-kun and Hanabi-chan. Makoto smiled kindly at the child and said, I have juice in the icebox and some rice cakes in the cupboard. Hinata quickly grabbed a tray and placed the items on top. She bowed politely to Makoto and quickly left the room in a nervous shuffle. She looks a lot like you used to, acts like you used to, as well. Makoto commented on watching Hinata leave. She then gave her old friend a curious look. Are you hoping she will be Naruto's first wife? Hitomi had been staring at the hallway entrance her daughter had just disappeared through when she registered Makoto's question. She gave the dark-haired woman a confused look. First wife? The Uchiha matriarch frowned. Yes, Naruto has been scheduled for the CRA. He will have multiple wives in hopes of restoring the Uzumaki clan. Makoto watched as the lovely face of Hitomi Hyuga went from confused, then to shocked, and finally rage. You had no idea about the future of Uzumaki harem? Uchiha asked, astonished. The blue-haired beauty calmed down and said. No, I didn't. I'm guessing this was something Baisho did when he was still alive that Izumi hasn't corrected yet. The Uchiha became confused. Baisho and Izumi have nothing to do with Hitomi. Lord Hokage is the Uzumaki clan regent and therefore acting as Uzumaki clan head until Naruto comes of age. Hitomi had an astonished look on her face. I thought Baisho was Naruto's legal guardian, and then when he died the responsibility fell to Izumi. Well, yes. Makoto explained. However, just like in our own clans, the parents or legal guardians make household decisions, while the clan head makes decisions for the good of the clan that can at times overrule a household decision. Surely you have had similar issues in the Hyuga clan, especially with the side branch family. Hitomi still looked astonished. Yes, that has happened a time or two. What surprises me, though, is that the Uzumaki clan would need a regent. Naruto's the only member, therefore all Uzumaki holdings should have been placed in a trust until the boy came of age. Sarutobi used his political power and influence to make himself the Uzumaki regent. He has full control over Naruto's clan holdings. Makoto was a little nervous by what Hitomi was insinuating. I seriously doubt Hiruzen Sarutobi had any ill intentions when he bullied his way into the job. He was only looking out for Naruto and the Uzumaki clan, He is not the kind of person to be evil or conniving. You may not agree with the CRA, but it does make sense. Kushina's son is the last viable male of his clan and can bring it back in full. Hitomi's full anger resurfaced. That closet pervert old monkey is forcing little Naruto to take a damn harem. Mikoto looked on as her old teammate fumed. This was getting interesting. One good thing did happen from this conversation. Hitomi's rage was being aimed at someone else. Hokage's office. Sarutobi watched Fugaku and Hiashi leave. They had just finished discussing training plans for Naruto, and the old man could easily see that the Uchiha clan leader was not happy with the decisions made. Since the boy had only reported a Byakugan-like sight, they would focus on that for now. He would train with Jiraiya every Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Then he would go to class on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Then on Friday evening, as well Saturday he would work with the Hyuga clan on Juken. Turning to Jiraiya he said. Might as well call the others involved. Time to bring Naruto up to speed on the Uchiha conflict. Jiraiya laughed a little. Or he can bring us up to speed. We still don't have a clue what he already knows. Uchiha compound. Itachi was in his backyard running Sasuke through katas. His little brother's form was flawless, as always. He couldn't help but notice the higher levels of frustration coming from his brother though. That's enough Sasuke, take a break. Itachi commanded. The little hothead ignored his orders. I can keep going for a while longer, brother. I need to get stronger. Itachi sighed frustratedly, he had known this would happen. Naruto was the only child in the compound close to Sasuke's age. Every other child was 3 years younger or older. Also, the fact many Uchiha had said the Uzumaki wouldn't be capable of using Sharingan was an issue. Naruto possessing a Dojutsu that no one had ever seen before was just icing on the cake. Sasuke, come here for a moment. The little Uchiha smiled and ran to his brother, only to receive a sharp poke to his forehead. Ouch! The little boy exclaimed while rubbing the injured spot. He glared angrily at Itachi. Set down, Sasuke. Itachi said, leading the small boy over to the back steps. Both brothers sat down next to one another, the youngest sulking. Sasuke, you're rather strong already. You can do things right now that I couldn't at your age. Yes, Naruto has a Dojutsu. That doesn't mean he is stronger than you, or that you've fallen behind. The young Anbu explained, trying to consult the little boy. It's not fair, he shouldn't even have a Dojutsu. Sasuke pouted, crossing his arms. Itachi rubbed his little brother's hair affectionately. Both boys heard footsteps and turned to see their mother and Lady Hyuga approaching. Hitomi was holding her youngest daughter's hand and Hinata was pulling on Naruto's arm. Come on, Naruto, you can't stay in that room forever. The young heiress said gently. The little Redeed looked defiant but didn't pull his arm out of his friend's arms. The cute little Hanabi bounced up to Sasuke. Hi, I'm 3. Mikoto's youngest son hadn't really interacted with small children very much and didn't know how to respond. Itachi rolled his eyes at his brother's lack of social graces. He smiled down at the baby girl. Hello, I'm Itachi, and this is my younger brother Sasuke. He's 8, and I'm 13. The small girl frowned up at both boys. She then concentrated hard and activated her Byakugan. Looking around quickly, she turned off her Dojutsu and rounded on her mom with an angry pout. You said there would be kids my age to play with. She whined. Both mothers smiled down at the young girl. Itachi noticed a tick mark form in the corner of Sasuke's right eye. Apparently a 3-year-old with an active Dojutsu was the last straw. I need to go by train. Sasuke said with a frustrated growl and walked off. Mikoto noticed her youngest son was upset. She turned to Itachi. What's wrong with him? Nothing, mother, he'll get over it. Looking at Naruto he asked sympathetically. How are you holding up? The Redeed shrugged and gave no comment. Hinata looked at her friend sadly. Do you want to train Naruto-kun? Mikoto struggled for anything to brighten the young Uzumaki's mood. Looking towards Sasuke, she got an idea. How would all of you like to see a display of fire jutsu? Hinata smiled kindly at the woman as she grabbed Naruto and led him towards Sasuke. Itachi followed silently behind the little friends as Hitomi picked up Hanabi. She gave Mikoto an annoyed look. Can't help but show off your son, can you? The Uchiha matriarch just gave her old friend an innocent smile. Oh, it's not only that. I also think this could cheer Naruto up a little. Kids usually like seeing displays of ninjutsu. The group made their way to Sasuke, who had gone back to his katas. The young boy stopped as he saw them approach. Mikoto walked to his side and explained. "Would you mind showing our guests the Uchiha's prize?" Sasuke smiled at his mom excitedly. He loved to show off to people. He led the group to a large pond positioned not far away. Standing on the pier, the raven-haired boy went through hand signs slowly, purely for the demonstration. Stopping on the tiger, the young Uchiha brought his fingers to his lips and breathed out. Fire release, fireball jutsu. A large solid sphere of fire flew across the water roughly the size of a full-grown man. It seemed to gather water as it extinguished itself. Sasuke turned back to the watching crowd to see the shocked faces of the three Hyuga, as well as the proud smile of his mother. Itachi had a small smirk of approval, but Naruto looked uncaring. Then the Uzumaki saw the awestruck faces of the Hyuga and stepped forward pouting. "What, think you can do better?" the arrogant Sasuke asked the Redeed. Naruto gave no reply as he began going through his own hand signs. Everyone watched closely as he stopped on the monkey. He then held his hands out in front of his body with the palms pointing straight out and his fingers up. A small spark of electricity was seen that quickly grew into a massive ball just as large as Sasuke's fireball jutsu. Lightning release, destruction sphere. The ball of lightning flew out until it reached the middle of the pond, where it detonated with a massive discharge of lightning. Itachi looked impressed, wishing he had copied that technique, while Sasuke looked pissed. He was angry the Redeed had shown him up. "Where did you learn that?" the young Uchiha exclaimed. Mikoto gave Sasuke a quilling look that made him back off. Naruto didn't make any comment about his skill. Hinata and Hanabi were giving their friend older brother figures happy smiles, while Hitomi was wondering what else the little Uzumaki was capable of. With all the tension in the air, Itachi was relieved to see the signal crow from Sarutobi. "Mother, everyone, I must leave now for a meeting with Lord Hokage. I was informed beforehand to bring Naruto, unless told otherwise." The Redeed didn't look happy. "I left security measures with my sister. That is the only reason I'm going with you." Mikoto looked uneasy, but said. "I'll protect Izumi while you're gone, Naruto. I promise no harm will come to her. I'll also make sure no one goes into their ether," the Uchiha matriarch thought. If he's anything like Kushina, the room's probably covered in a perimeter barrier connected to a bunch of paper bombs. Itachi picked Naruto up and sunshine away. Hitomi thanked Izumi for her hospitality while gathering her daughters and leaving. The Hyuga matriarch had much to think about, mainly how to get Naruto out of the CRA. Hokage's office. Sarutobi sat behind his desk waiting for Naruto and Itachi. On his right stood Kakashi, Zisho, Tsunade, and Jiraiya. On his left stood Danzo, Hamura, and Kaharu. He had been obligated to explain about the development of Naruto's new Dojutsu, mainly because it could be useful in spying on the Uchiha. There came a knock from the door, and Itachi entered leading Naruto. The Anbu closed the door, reactivating the privacy seals. The little boy looked around the room nervously. He had thought this was just a talk with his Jiji and Master Jiraiya. His nervousness faded as his chocolate brown eyes fell on Danzo. A steady pressure began to fill the room, and everyone became tense. Itachi walked forward and stood next to Naruto. He knelt down to face level and said, "Naruto, everyone here would like to discuss your various abilities and how they can help resolve a problem with my clan. A problem we all believe you are all too aware of." Naruto wasn't stupid and knew his Jiji had an idea of his capabilities. The young boy had decided that, if the Hokage wanted to pretend that everything was normal, then he would. Looking around a little afraid, the boy asked, "Am I in trouble for killing my brother?" "No," Sarutobi said quickly to assure his surrogate grandson. "I am sorry it had to be you that killed him, but your actions were in defense of the land of fire and its people. Regardless of your own personal motives concerning your brother, it was a justifiable execution. Taking someone so powerful alive would have taken skill and battle experience that only years of combat can teach." On that note, Jiraiya began. "Our investigation into Baisho's criminal activities has gone cold. We believe he was working for the Uchiha clan at the time, but there is no evidence to support that theory. We sent Anbu to apprehend the buyer on Nagi Island, but the Uchiha got to him first. Do you have anything that can help us?" Naruto began tapping his fingers in front of his body as he thought of the best way to explain things. "Lord Fugaku is losing control of the clan." Itachi gave Naruto a startled look. "What do you mean?" Everyone waited eagerly to hear what the Redeed had to say. Naruto focused all his attention on the Hokage attempting to overcome his nervousness. I thought Itachi's dad ordered 3 Uchiha civilians to gather money for the clan any way they could because I never saw them go over any plans with him, and they always talked about making sure he didn't know anything. I thought he just wanted to be out of the loop because they were hurting people. They explained as much to Baisho when they recruited him. Yeah. Jiraiya said, thinking. Plausible deniability, sounds about right. Naruto stared at the Toad Sage, committing the phrase to memory. He would have to ask Shikamaru later what it meant. He remembered he was explaining things to his Jiji and quickly turned back to the Hokage. After I killed my brother, I watched Fugaku closely and discovered he had no idea about the illegal activity. The 3 civilians lied to my brother and told him it was all for the clan, but truthfully they were just making money for themselves. Baisho never knew the truth. The civilians also paid Uchiha Baito to kill the buyer on Nagi after Lord Fugaku told them to go and bring him back alive. The redeed finished. Hiruzen lit his pipe and took a drag. Fugaku was trying to uncover who in his clan orchestrated the shipment. He realizes that if this gets out it could expose the rebellion, so he tries to handle it quietly. Kaharu looked at Naruto and asked, "Do you have any evidence of Uzumaki-san?" "Unfortunately, we can't act on your word alone." The old woman had not been unkind in her request, only strict. Naruto taped his fingers together nervously and then turned to face the door. There was a shimmer in the air and a hole appeared out of nowhere. Everyone looked shocked at the casual display of teleportation. Knowing he had a space-time technique was one thing, but seeing it was another. Saratobi began to immediately analyze as the little boy walked through to the other side. So, it's not instantaneous travel like Minato and Tobirama-sensei's had been. There are several key advantages and disadvantages compared to theirs though. This one would probably have an easier time redirecting attacks from enemies, as Flying Thunder God had an easier time of avoiding attacks altogether. However, I'm guessing the hole is a two-way street that leaves Naruto open for a counterattack when he tries using it on an enemy. This puts you right next to your opponent, it's a matter of who strikes first. The Hokage wasn't the only one analyzing them either. Everyone in the room had similar thoughts. Naruto returned to the office carrying a large box. Itachi moved to help him, and they placed the box on the Hokage's desk. The portal behind Naruto closed. The Redeed opened the lid and showed his Jiji several files inside. "This is everything I have, sir." Kakashi and Jiraiya began to dig through the box. Both were surprised by the detail of the evidence. There were even pictures to go with descriptions about illegal business deals. Jiraiya noticed Uchiha Kanemoto and 2 others were in most of the pictures. Kakashi pulled out a box of small cassette tapes that were labeled. "I think we may have found out where the missing Anbu surveillance equipment went," he said, giving Naruto an eye smile. The little boy blushed and looked down sheepishly. Itachi gave the Hokage a hopeful look. "Sir, can we use this to stop the rebellion somehow? Maybe if we show my father that the clan isn't the united front he thinks, then we can shame him into putting a stop to it." The Hokage seemed to think it over. "If we use this evidence against the Uchiha, we have to admit where it came from. If the Uchiha clan figures out that Naruto was capable of this degree of spying, then they might put 2 and 2 together and figure out Naruto had the means to follow Baisho to Smoke Harbor. They may not believe he killed Baisho, but they will know he had a hand in it. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with putting Naruto in such danger." Itachi deflated a little. Naruto looked at the older boy sadly. Making up his mind, the Uzumaki turned back to Saratobi and said in a quiet but strong voice, "I am more than capable of taking care of myself. If the Uchiha clan comes after me then I can fight them." Hiruzen gave the small boy a proud smile. "I will give it some thought, Naruto-kun. You have a lot of evidence for us to go through, and we can't make a hasty decision. Both of you need to give me time to analyze everything. A week or 2 at the most to determine if we can make a workable plan that doesn't end in bloodshed." Itachi and Naruto gave the Hokage nods of acceptance. Neither were happy with the lack of action, but knew they couldn't force Saratobi's hand. The Hokage then passed a small Redeed a rolled-up scroll. "This will be your training schedule for the foreseeable future. Officially, you are now Jiraiya's apprentice. We will use this excuse as cover so you can attend secret meetings until the Uchiha rebellion is handled, one way or another. I'm sure you are eager to get back to Izumi, and us grown-ups have a lot of reading to do. Itachi, please escort Naruto home." Naruto smiled and said, "I could just teleport there, Jiji." I don't want you using your teleportation ability to openly talk to Naruto. Sarutobi said seriously. It would be best if you kept it a secret for as long as you can. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. He seemed to remember something and opened a small hole next to him. Reaching in, the Uzumaki pulled out a large scroll and handed it to the Hokage. A detailed list of and what they can do. Sarutobi took the large scroll from Naruto and placed it on his desk. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Itachi placed a hand on the Redeed's shoulder and led him out of the office. After they were gone, Danzo made a slight motion to retrieve Naruto's scroll, but the old man stopped him. I know you are simply a curious old friend, but I think it was implied that this scroll was for my eyes only. The old war hawk gave his leader a hard look. We need to know the full capabilities of Uzumaki Naruto. He is one of our village's greatest assets. He must be controlled for the whole of the village's military strength. Zisho walked up in the bastard's face and asked harshly. Are you really questioning Lord Hokage's abilities regarding Naruto's evaluation? Enough. The Hokage barked. Zisho backed off and returned to his side of the room. Sarutobi glared at Danzo. I will check the scroll over and inform you of all of the techniques that could be of use. However, I will keep Naruto's secrets and his trust. You're dismissed. Everyone but Jiraiya and Tsunade left the room. The legendary medic looked curiously at the scroll and box full of evidence. She then turned back to the door the council just left through, thinking out loud. What do you suppose Naruto has on Danzo? Giving out a bitter laugh, Jiraiya commented. No idea, but that one question is the thing that Danzo would desperately love to answer right now. If I were you, sensei, I'd get that scroll out of the village. Perhaps you can entrust it to the monkeys. You wouldn't prefer to entrust it to the toads? Sarutobi asked the hermit, surprised. As you explained to Danzo, that scroll is for your eyes only. Jiraiya explained. Besides, as his teacher he'll probably feel me about his abilities, one way or another. Tsunade gave her old teammate a teasing smile. Do you want me around for your first full contact sparring session? Jiraiya scoffed. As if the little shrimp could hurt me. Sarutobi gave the toad sage a serious look. Take this seriously, Jiraiya. I highly doubt Baisho thought his little brother could kill him. Now he's sleeping in a 6-foot hole. Sighing wearily, Sarutobi grabbed the evidence box. Come on, let's go through this and see just how far the Uchiha have truly fallen. On the streets of Konoha, Itachi walked in silence next to Naruto. As they came to a secluded wooded area of the path leading to the Uchiha compound, he looked down at the young boy and said. Thank you, Naruto, I was worried my father was guilty of those atrocities. It's a relief to know he didn't have anything directly to do with Baisho's mission. Though, he is still somewhat guilty. The civilians couldn't have lied to Baisho so easily had there been no planning of a rebellion in the first place. Both boys walked down the path without pause until Naruto asked out of the blue. Danzo killed Shisui, didn't he? Lord Hokage thinks so, I overheard him discussing it with Joun and Zisho. They were also discussing the fact that he tried to kill my sister. Itachi stopped and looked down at Naruto. The young Uzumaki paused and started back up at the older boy's eyes. Naruto, one problem at a time. We deal with the Uchiha first, then we go after Danzo. The Redeed's eyes were full of hatred as he silently stated. The Uchiha clan hasn't tried to kill Izumi. The young boy reached into his back pocket of his black pants and pulled out a small piece of paper. He handed it over to Itachi, and the young protege saw a complex Fuinjutsu seal had been drawn on it. He looked at Naruto curiously and asked, "What's this?" "That is the marker for my wormhole jutsu," Naruto explained in his usual low voice. It took a second for Itachi to realize the little guy was referring to his space-time technique. "The next time you go and meet Danzo, I want you to place this in his office. The tag has been preset to hide inside stone walls or floors. This will get me a way in, and I'll take care of the rest." Itachi rubbed Naruto's head in a brotherly fashion saying, "You can't kill Danzo, he isn't a pushover despite his advanced age." "I don't want to kill Danzo," Naruto explained simply. "I want to gather evidence and take it to Lord Hokage. After I killed Baisho, I regretted it," Naruto stated sadly. He was hurting people, and I thought, if he could do those horrible things, what would stop him from hurting Izumi? Had I thought about it more than I would have gone to Lord Hokage, but I was angry and attacked Baisho. I killed my older brother. Itachi wrapped the Redeed in a comforting hug. "You did nothing wrong, Naruto," The Hokage would have executed Baisho for his crimes. He was dead the moment he put my clan man's greed before innocent lives. Separating, Itachi smiled down at his unofficial girlfriend's little brother. Come on, let's get home. I'm sure my mother has dinner prepared, and I know you must be hungry. As both boys began to walk down the street again, Naruto started with some dread. Sasuke is going to bug me to teach him, isn't he? For the first time ever, Naruto heard Itachi Uchiha let out a loud belly laugh. Root division. The elders were once again having a private meeting within the underground Tiram. The tension in the air was grim as the old woman glared at her two counterparts angrily. The whole point of using the rogue mist shinobi was so Uchiha Izumi's assassination could never be laid at our feet. Koharu said furiously. Now, Uzumaki Naruto will come after us. How did anyone, especially him, discover our involvement? I was able to get a copy of the mission report. Homura stated. Apparently, Shuji Sugawara reported that Hazuki Shimizu shouted out something to Izumi along the lines. The mummy said you can't use fire. It was enough of a description for Hiruzen to guess Danzo's involvement. I can only assume Naruto inadvertently learned the information from him. Danzo's mood grew dark. Hiruzen is a fool for letting that boy eavesdrop so easily. He is a fool for not utilizing the weapon more effectively from the beginning. He allowed his feelings for Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina to cloud his judgment. Now there is no way to truly control the Jinchuriki. Koharu calmed down and tried to think logically. We are not done yet. Judging by his response at being called out on his abilities and his brother's murder, he is a gifted child only. What I mean is the boy is still impressionable. He was worried that he would be in trouble for executing that traitor Baisho, and he showed the Hokage the attention and respect that any well-behaved child would when being addressed by an adult. Danzo gave the old woman a questioning look. What are you thinking exactly? How often do enemy villages try to kidnap Keke Genkia possessing children? Koharu asked rhetorically with a cold smile. We stage the kidnapping of Uchiha Izumi, and then Root saves her. Danzo gave the woman an understanding look. So, we make ourselves the heroes in Naruto's eyes. We could even manipulate the investigation to presume that multiple parties were involved in the kidnapping attempt to give the boy more targets to focus on. This allows us an opportunity to manipulate and mold him as we see fit. He will come to see us as the ones who protect the village with decisive action while others, mainly Saratobi and his flock, do nothing but talk. Over time he will become our perfect weapon. Homura threw his own thoughts in. We could even deny any involvement with the assignation attempt on Izumi in the first place. There was nothing but the ramblings of a madman to tie Danzo to the crime. If Naruto sees us as trustworthy after saving his sister, then he might easily believe us when we explain that it wasn't our doing. We could even fabricate a different suspect in another village. There is some tension with the land of Earth at the moment, Danzo said, staring down at the small round table. However, framing Hidden Cloud would be the best. They once tried to kidnap Lady Hinata Hyuga and Lady Kushina Uzumaki. The fact they tried to take away 3 different people the boy cares about at one time or another would fuel his hate and blind him from discovering the truth. We seem to have a plan to gain control over the weapon, but what about dealing with the Uchiha clan? Homura asked. Danzo reached up to his face and rubbed the right side bandages. Itachi will still carry out his mission. It must be him, or Orochimaru must be paid for the work he has done for all of us and will accept no one else but the Uchiha protege. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. If you want the next part of this story, let me know in the comment box. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.